G'day, we're the Kidman brothers.
And today we're talking about the most common questions people have about the NBN.
So the first question that we're always asked to address is, do I have to get the NBN? Do I have any choice?
And ultimately, look, the answer to that is no, you don't have much choice unless you fancy going back into the 18th century and not having internet and not having a phone line. The NBN is either in your area now or it will be there by, as per the current plan, 2020, at which point you will have a crossover period in which you have to transfer over to whatever the NBN technology in your area is.
So how long will I have to wait when that happens, once they've rolled it out in my area?
So once your area is declared to be NBN ready, as they say, then typically speaking, you'll have 18 months. There are some circumstances where for cable customers that could be a little shorter, possibly as short as 90 days. You certainly should be informed of that. And the key message there really is that it pays to be ready.
Okay, so I know I've got to get it. I've heard about all the different options I could have. There's this cable, there's this satellite. Can I choose between those? Can I pick the one that's right for me?
No, you can't. Or broadly speaking, unless you actually plan on selling your home and moving, you can't. And for most of us, that's not a practical reality. What happens with this is that across the country, the rollout map determines which technology is deployed where. So satellite, for example, is an example of a technology where that's deployed for the most remote Australians, where laying any kind of wire or cable just isn't economically feasible. So that's who the satellite service is meant to serve. Whereas you then shift to technologies such as wireless, fibre to the node, fibre to the curb, fibre to the premises and cable. And yes, it does get that complicated. But the practical reality is you don't get a choice in that. That is actually just laid out, and those are the plans that will be available to you and the speeds that will be available to you as a result.
Yeah, so the majority of people, though, will end up on some kind of fibre-based connection.
Yeah, that's right. They'll either end up with a full fibre to the premises, or a fibre and copper solution, depending, again, on the lay of the land, essentially, and on the existing infrastructure. They'll end up with copper either running from a point right near their house or to a cabinet further down the street. That has an effect on the overall speed that you can get out of the connection because of the way the two technologies intermingle, but most people will be on that kind of fixed connection.
Okay, so that's the other big question then that follows on from that. Is it going to be faster than what I've got right now?
For the majority of Australians, it should be. This is always a bit of an imprecise science because it depends on how you measure the speed. If you're on a full fibre connection, for example, those can pace up incredibly quickly, but it depends on so many other variables. The standard metaphor that everyone uses here is for highways and roads because it's really kind of easily understood. So a full fibre connection, for example, might be a Bugatti Veyron, a really fast supercar. It's got all the potential in the world to go very, very fast, but there are a number of other things that can be a bottleneck, and that includes the capacity that your carrier has actually bought along that cable, other users on that cable, and then even the service that you're trying to reach. If you've ever tried to get to a busy shopping site during a major sale, you'll be aware that they fall over all the time. Well, that happens with any kind of internet connection. If where you're trying to reach is really busy, everyone's trying to, drive in down that single lane road into that server, well, that will still happen. So there can be bottlenecks, but the practical reality for the majority of Australians on an existing ADSL connection is that it should be a faster experience.
Okay. So it's probably going to be faster. Is it going to be cheaper?
That's quite variable depending on the style of plan that you choose to connect to. Right now, there are a lot of very, very cheap ADSL plans, and they're kind of on the way out. A lot of what we're seeing in the NBN space is still fairly competitive across the big carriers and, of course, all the new entrants in that space. So it shouldn't be hard if you compare and if you carefully choose based on speed tiers and available data to get a plan that costs the same or less than what you're currently paying.
We mentioned at the start that, okay, you've got to get onto the NBN. Do you have the option, if you're just really not interested, of just getting it to effectively replace your phone line and having a phone and nothing else?
If a landline is all that interests you, then yes, telephony services will be served over NBN connections, and you can't just say, well, the copper line is still there and I still want to use it, because those actual frequencies will be switched off after typically that 18-month period we discussed before. And you can then sign up for a pure telephone service if that's what you want, and you should be able to keep your existing phone number along the way.
Yeah. So as we've mentioned, everyone's not getting on the NBN at once. So how can you find out when it's actually coming to your area?
So what you can do is you can use Finder's NBN tracker, punch your address in there, and that will give you an idea either of the available plans to you if you're in an NBN ready area already and you just weren't aware of it, or the expected rollout date of when those services are planned to be ready in your area.
Okay, awesome. So final question, will the NBN make me sexier?
Look, there are many, many wonderful things you can do on the internet, but it has its limitations.
Fair enough. Okay guys, hopefully that's answered a few of your questions. Thanks for watching.